welcome you to the 2019 edition of the Human Resource Expo Africa HREA Summit. This year's theme is the art of employee engagement.
They hammered more on personal hygiene, and that was what I saw and felt while going through the 3 floors that they were cleaning in the office. So, culture, like I said, is not just a feel-good exercise. It should be something that, we should know how to impact it. HR should always tell leaders and teach and train both the leaders and the employees how these cultures will be impacted. So for instance, most of us, we say we stand for oneness. And we talk about oneness, you pass through canteens and they'll tell you this is senior staff canteen and this is junior staff canteen. So we're actually supposed to represent our culture. That culture, that's lovely design, that lovely word or the lovely phrase that is on our website should speak through us and with us.
Thank you, Glory. So our third speaker has just arrived, and passing the mic to introduce himself.
Okay. My name is Suleiman Shaibu. I'm a management consultant, and apologies for coming late. We're trying to find markets in this thing.
Apologies accepted.
I'll tell you this. I didn't even know this was how I'll be here also waiting at the door. These familiar faces.
So we're treating the question that says HR's role in leading. What's HR's role in leading the processes that shape a strong and ethical workplace culture? So Glory just gave us her perspective. We're going to go on to Steve now.
Thank you.
Steve doesn't want to use
Thank you. So, from the last experience, this is exactly what we're talking about. But in terms of, in my opinion, in terms of HR's role and responsibility in this it's absolutely paramount. So I've had the privilege of listening to a couple of speakers today in particular, starting with Mr. Alex Goma earlier this morning. And he finished off with something which I really, really believe in. Now, Alex and I have a shared thing. We both obviously worked at PZ Cousins, but I couldn't agree with him more. HR's role and responsibility is to be the custodians of the culture, because most of our employees don't have a voice, or they don't feel like they have a voice. And it's HR's responsibility to make sure that there is a translation of that voice to management and from management down. But it's about making it transparent. Because the minute that we start saying one thing but treating people in a different way or whatever, that's where there becomes that huge disconnect. And it is HR responsibility to act ethically and to be very transparent in what is going on. And to the points of other speakers earlier today, it's about also just being honest. And it's about feeding back to management where things don't, where things don't reflect the reality of what is going on the ground versus what we're saying. So a classic one in recruitment is, in fact, can I ask the audience just for a show of hands so that I get an idea of the audience? How many of you are either specifically working in recruitment or have had recruitment in your background or your day-to-day job as part of it? Okay, so a vast majority of us will have this. At some stage, you would have written a job advert. Whether you were putting it into the newspaper, or you were putting it onto your website, or you were using Niger Jobs or something like that, you would have written an advert. And adverts is marketing. So we're trying to get candidates to apply to us, and we say things like, we are a great organization, we make very quick decisions, we are agile, we are fast, we're one thing like that. But if that does not reflect the reality when the candidate gets into, if the process of recruitment, if you say we are agile, we are fast, we're a leading edge company, and your recruitment takes 7 months before they hear something one way or the other, how can we look at them in the face and say, yes, we are agile? So we need to be transparent. So maybe we don't be too honest that we say, yes, it's going to take 7 months, but explain to candidates, because some reality we can change and some we can't with our organization. It's about being truthful. so that when they come into the office, they know what's going on. You know, if your office is on the 5th floor and there is no lift, be straight. Candidates need to understand the reality of this. You know what I mean? They are going to walk. So I strongly believe that it is HR's main primary responsibility after we've used, as the speaker yesterday was explaining, Maslow hierarchy of needs. Once we've got all of that basically sorted out, it's our responsibility in HR to make sure that we are the custodians of ethical culture and open and transparent communication with our staff, with our future staff, with our senior staff, our low staff, in every direction on any interaction we have. It's our responsibility to drive it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve, for that. Yes, I think you're right. Openness is very important because I think that's the bedrock that it builds trust. If you're not open and true to who you are, then it creates distrust.
Staff take actions that are totally against the company's rules. How people are punished or how people are rewarded go a long way in deciding whether the company is behaving ethically or not. We need to ensure that at all times that we are above board in our dealings. And secondly too, there is a very strong bias in our society about how we deal with people who we consider are older or senior to us. We make them look infallible. So for HR needs to really strike a very good balance in dealing with discipline issues, especially when it involves senior people. Because the temptation is to try and say, let's manage it. And in the course of trying to manage those issues, they have a way of seeping out. There's a way junior staff get to hear about the details, they misinterpret, there are innuendos, they gossip, there's side talk. And when those things are not properly dealt with, that's how companies' cultures are formed. Yes, people are not really sure that they will get a fair judgment in the organization. So I think HR needs to ensure that those kind of things don't happen. And if you really need to talk to management or the CEO to really step up and take very clear position on discipline issues that involve senior people, they should. So that's an example.
Thank you for that. HR is a very tough job.
Yes, I mean, can you imagine?
And I think it's more when we're talking about ethical and
Yes.
implementing,
Yes.
you know, so when we say zero tolerance to non-ethical practices, I think it's more difficult when we're dealing with people we actually like. So if you don't like a guy in your organization and does something wrong, I think it's easy to just easily fire. But when you know that model staff who you really, really like, and it's very, very difficult. But like you said, yes, HR has to be straight and transparent and everything. Okay, so we go to the next question. Transparency. The effects on talent attraction, retention strategy, and engagement. So what's transparency on the effect of talent attraction, retention strategy, and engagement?
You want me to start this time? Okay. So I think when it comes to attracting talent, the company must be very clear what its standard is. It must be so transparent that even if HR was not present in an interview process, you know that the conflicted sometimes if the person who's running an organization has a very strong faith bias, and you find someone who has come to apply for a job that is of a different faith as yourself. These are areas of sensitivity. The kind of example that the leader shows will go a long way in forming the impression that people have about the organization. So you cannot attract good talent if you're not colorblind in your selection. If people perceive that, and I speak to, because this is a Nigerian audience, if for example, of an interview process, when you ask about what their faith is, or ask a question that happens upon their faith, you say, oh no, don't worry, these people, I think, for this kind of position, no, look, I think it's only Muslims that will be recruited. We need to evolve over and above this kind of position so that we can make our selection more transparent, especially for companies who aspire to be international. This is very, very, very important. You cannot have all those kind of biases in your organization. You will not really attract good talent that way.
Thank you. The other thing to reinforce what was said by Suleiman is, remember that it doesn't matter how many million people live in Lagos State or how many 100,000 live in this town or whatever. The communities are very, very, very well connected. And your reputation as an organization gets out there. Okay, people will talk. So the transparency in the recruitment process is absolutely paramount. You need to be very, very honest and transparent with what exactly it is that the job entails, what are the expectations. There are classic ones where we think that something in the role might not be too attractive for the candidates, so we leave it out. Or we make it sound small. So a good example is, for argument's sake, if the role requires a lot of travel, we think, maybe people won't like this because they want to be home with family and stuff like that. So we only say 10% travel, okay, in the role. 10%, you only have to go to the depots once in every 2 months or whatever. When the reality, the transparency is, it's every week. At least one day in every week you have to be traveling to go. The reality is you can be a little bit opaque with the truth during the process. You may indeed find a very good candidate. You may find the best talent, but they will sniff you on the very first week that they are in the organization. And if those people feel like they have been lied to, or the reality is not what they were told through the recruitment process, they won't stay with you. If they are true talent, and this, I'm telling you, it's across the whole globe, where I've worked in Asia, where I've worked in Europe, and where I've worked in other countries in Africa outside of Nigeria, but Nigeria included. People, the true talent in any country or place, they are sought after. Your company and 3 or 4 others are going to fight over that candidate. If you are not transparent with them in the recruitment and they don't like what they see because you didn't tell them, they will start their network and they will be out of your company as soon as they can find the next job. And if they are true talent, it won't take them very long. So I would challenge you to say, even if you don't believe in transparency, you better believe in it. Because a recruitment process, how many of us have struggled to recruit somebody for a position because there is such competition in the market and so few people? Imagine all that effort and all that money and all that time that you put into the recruitment. The person comes and starts with you, and 3 months later they leave because they say, you were not transparent, you were not honest with me. You said that I could earn so much with my commissions, and this is impossible. It will never happen in this company. I will always be earning this much. They will go, and you will start that process straight from the beginning. And again, I challenge you, even if you are lucky that you can do your recruitment on a very small budget, think about the cost to the business that you are losing because of lost sales, because you've got 2 people doing 4 jobs, because you can't keep up, because your customer satisfaction will drop. These are all those hidden costs that if you were honest in the recruitment process, you have more chance of getting the talent and retaining them.
Thank you, Steve. So I'll come from the area of retention. My 2 colleagues, they talked about recruitment. So I'll come from the area of retention. Like Steve said, after attracting and recruiting those talents, how do we intend to retain them? So human beings, we like to be engaged. We like to have that trust with our employers. And there's one thing I've always struggled with in the past over a decade of my career, and it's something on salary transparency. I struggle with the fact that many companies do not like to be transparent with salaries. They'll say bluntly that do not discuss your salary with the other person. When we know that just give them the employment letter and the whole team already knows what the salary is. So I've been in situations where they say, no, it's according to your bargaining power. So for instance, you came, when I asked you what's your last salary or how much are you currently earning, and you tell me 200,000, and I say to myself, I need to save money for the company. So if the role advertised was supposed to be like 500,000, I'll just give this person like 50,000 or 80,000 to top, where the difference, and I keep the remaining one for my company. And I see that as so wrong. So I always like to put for every company I've worked, like, we should have a salary wage structure. So you are this, whether you're coming from a place where you were paid 100,000 naira and this role is 700,000. Once you are considered a good fit for the role, we don't have a choice. We need to give you that salary. So I do things like this. I do things like, so horizontal or vertical. So yes, there will be levels, different levels per band or per grade. So if we know that, so you might be that, okay, you are in grade 1, level 2, grade 1, level 5. So you might not earn the same salary. So that gives people that trust to like, okay, I don't think I'm cheated. The company is cheating me. But when I feel like, oh, I'm working so hard and I'm being paid 200,000, and this lady that just came from UK, she doesn't really do much. She's getting 400,000. You know, they don't know how to correlate those two things. But when they realize that, oh, this lady is actually on grade 4, level 5, fine. Oh, I'm on grade 4, level 1, it's fine. So I know what steps I need to take to grow and get to level 5 and cross over to the other level. So that's something I've always pushed for, and it really works. It makes employees feel like, okay, there's a career growth plan for me.
Okay. Thank you very much, our moderators. So I would like to add something on engagement. So whilst, if we go by what Steve says, the real talent would zoom off if you're not transparent. Let's also not forget about the impact on the people, so the non-talents, let's say the non-talents that remain in our organization, but the high turnover and the fact that the way the company treats people will also impact on their engagement. So they are there with you, but they are actually not engaged. So all of this has, so it's not only on the retention or even on the recruitment, it's also the impact on the people who stay behind in your organization. So I think summary of what we're saying today is important for HR to be transparent. So we gain more being transparent than hiding salaries, like Glory mentioned, and I'm sure there are lots more things. Okay. So our last topic is strategies. So strategies business leaders can employ in integrating an ethical culture. So I think our HR colleagues would like some tips, right? So you're thinking, okay, my organization, we're not doing things right. I'd like to go as experts and leaders, thought leaders in our field. So if we just give them quick, pointers, things they can quickly implement to help. Okay, so Suleiman would like to start.
I think this message is more for business owners and senior executives. Leadership is by example. Yes, you have to lead, showing the way. And one of the ways I think leaders can show the way is the way they deal with HR issues. For example, when a good talent leaves your organization, the first thing I think a good HR and exec should do is that those exit interviews, they should be open-minded to listen to what the person who is leaving is telling them, yes. If there's something that they can do about it, they should do them quickly. It's also good for management sometimes to share some of their learnings with the rest of the staff. Now, it's difficult for people to be transparent and vulnerable. But people admire you for being candid. You have a good staff that left. Maybe he left because he got a better pay. You could be, as exec, you could be honest with the rest of the team. Look, John left. We did everything we could to keep him, but given our finances today, we can't pay twice the amount he's asking for, or cannot match his asking price. But for those of us who are still here, we're doing everything within our capacity to ensure that we improve the working condition. Thirdly, in terms of engagement, is that HR and the business overall should stop being in a reactionary position when people leave. Why? Because that's when they try, okay, let's try, thank God it's Friday, let's go for some team building exercise. Look, a lot of employees, they're not that stupid. They get the message. They know that, look, this is a temporary measure. 6 months down the line, you won't do it anymore. Yes, it's not your culture. You are not consistent. So by my advice is that if you're a employee engagement champion, it's better you get feedback from the rest of the staff early enough and put it as part of your plan, so that when you implement them, they will say, well, it had our input and it's not new. So that's fine.
Great. So just to help us summarize so there are 2 great points.
Okay.
Suleiman has just given two great tips. So the first thing is the exit interview. Great way for HR to get feedback. So he said be open-minded. As HR people, we should be open-minded. And from my experience, I personally like to do exit interviews myself. I don't even want to delegate because I really want to get the scoop, who are the good managers. And because at the end of the day, people leave managers, not really your organization. So during the exit interview, it's a good way to know, those managers that are really engaging their people and really managing. Then the second thing is also the culture. So planning your people engagement ahead, and you're not reactional. So that, like the point you made about just doing that quick TGIF. So these things don't cost money. I've worked in big organizations and I've worked in small organizations. I've worked in startup organizations. I've worked in organizations that are really struggling to pay salary, all types of organizations. And one thing, what I've noticed is you can have employee engagement irrespective of your budget. Because sometimes when we think employee engagement, we think big budgets. No, it can be, you can be creative around how, but the most important thing is to have a plan. So you're not reactional, about it, and people know you're being consistent. Thank you very much for that. Okay, Steve.
So just to build on that, one of the things that I would say is, and to that point, the people in the room, you work for your organization. Only you in this room know about the culture of your organization. So we can give you all these tips. You can go there, they do, thank God it's Friday, go out for drinks, donuts on a Monday morning. I'm not saying that any one of them is right or any one of them is wrong, but you'll know what will fit with your organization, and you need to find it. But so we're trying to give advice and tips and learning to each other in an HR environment. One of the things that I would definitely say to you is, whatever engagement you start on, whether you have got a good budget, and if you have, good luck, but if you don't, whatever you can afford, you only have one chance. You only have one chance to get it right. If you are going to engage with your workforce at whatever level, and you're going to ask them to be honest and give you their opinion, you must be prepared to obviously listen, but more importantly, they need to see an action. If you work hard and get their trust, and people tell you something, and then 6 months later they look around and nothing has changed at all, nothing, and they can't even see how you have tried, because if they see that you have tried but senior management has stopped it, they will still trust you. You will still have an open ear to them if you ask them for their opinion. But if they see that you had this great event or survey or snapshots or corridor chats or coffee mornings or whatever it is, and they opened up and they told you things, and then they look at you and they see you in your office or at your desk, and nothing at all has changed at all, you are finished. You are finished in that organization as far as they are concerned, because from there on, they will never tell you the truth. Even if they want to speak to you, they won't. Because they'll say, why? Well, I'm wasting my time. I told them, I was very honest. He or she said they were going to do something, I saw nothing. So my honest opinion to you is, if you decide to engage with your employees, make sure that you also have the courage to drive something through. And if they see that it's blocked, they won't be happy, but they won't be upset with you as the individual. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just pick up from where Steve left. This is it's too practical. It happens almost every day. So you go to some companies and some people will tell you, our HR manager is just, that's how, just there, but sometimes you talk to HR managers, you say, it's not my fault. I think my advice to HR managers is that I think we should be more influential. We should try to push, we should try to defend what we stand for. These new initiatives that we stand for. So that's why people feel or rather the saying that strategy eats culture. So no matter that wonderful, structure that you are trying to put up, that training, that intervention that you've taken your employees on, when you are not ready or you are not influential enough to implement it, they even you lose respect from your people. I think we should be able to push, we're able to tell this management why. What they want to know is the why. For most companies I've worked, they'll tell me, Glory, we've been here for over 30 years, over 40 years, and it's been good. We're okay. So why do we need all these things? So that is the why that they want to know. So you need to take the leaders through the why. And when you're able to influence them, I bet you things will go normal, you gain that respect, you'll be so happy, and when everything is put in place, even during recruitment, you can go through your cultural fit and get the right people that can also join you to drive these good initiatives, good culture. The workplace would still have conflict, but not as much as we would have it.
Thank you very much. So now we'll go to open up for questions. So please, if you have any question.
Thank you all. My name is Dami, and I'd like to ask. It may not be directly to what we have talked about, but because we're talking about transparency, is why I want to ask this question. So, I've had a lot of people have a school of thought about organizations asking candidates to submit their previous payslips and their letters and all of that. Now, we all know that if not 100%, at least 80% are all lies. They are all lies. So if we know, I'm sure that after we tell these people to do, we will still have to check back. But these people have their ways. They find a way around it. And they come back telling that yes, it's true, whereas it's not. So I would like to ask, if we know that these things that we do are not effective, that's by asking for the payslip, why do we still do it?
Let me try hazard an answer. Okay. First, I'm not in HR, but I have a couple of ideas why I think this happens. The first one is that it's a tick in the box for somebody in HR. It's something you need to ask. But I dare say that it gives the people who are evaluating the candidates some sense of comfort that whatever it is that they are negotiating with the candidates involved now, they have an impression that they are getting a fair deal. But is it a good step? Not really. I think it's a waste of time. Why? Because if you see a good candidate, you will know. And you would have had internal discussions, you would have had a cap as to how much or the bandwidth you can spend getting this candidate. If you see a good candidate, you go after him. So if the guy had the misfortune of working for a bad organization that underpriced the person, I mean, why should he be punished? It's like football. If you watch football, you see a player that when he started his career, maybe he was so hungry or so desperate, he agreed to some measly terms. They were paying him maybe $5 million. Now he's a very good striker and they badly need him. They pay him $5 million. They don't go around asking him whether it was any $5 million. They know exactly what his worth is. So I think it's one of the things that HR should influence management to really see. The flip side of it also to is that, if you think about it, if you have a bad candidate, it's the job of it's the feeling of HR or the owners who have made a poor selection. Yes, so all you need to do is either put more checks to ensure that you get the correct fact. And if for any reason at all you find somebody has misrepresented or presented something, I'm sure there's a small clause in an employment contract that says if they find information that are not true or otherwise, the company has the right to dismiss you. So I think you should leave that. I'll give you a real life example. some years back, I was running my business ran into some tough waters, so I was forced to go back to paid employment. I mean, I could barely pay or take care of myself. And I went to the Microsoft interview, and they were asked how much was I earning. So I told them, look, this stage in my life, I'm not even sure I could pay a lot of things, so there's no basis. So you need to make a decision, whether you, given my track record of things I've done before, whether you want to hire me or not. And it was a non-starter, so there was no need. I didn't provide any reference as to what it is I've done before. So my message again to HR is that the refining process or the selection process has to be more thorough. You probably just need that, maybe somebody needs to check. I don't know if it's a compliance thing that somebody needs to check and say that, look, have you asked for salary? If the person is not what it is, truly not what it is. That's what, thanks.
Okay, for me rather, I know that, like you said, if it's a checklist, yes. So if you see recruitment interview rating sheets, for instance, so there's a part that says previous salary or current salary and expected salary. So for HR, I think we're just trying to be fair, to both parties, both the candidates and we as an organization. So for instance, you want to know how much the person is currently earning, so that you use that to probably benchmark what you are offering, and also you like to know what you expected, what you expect to earn. So if whatever you are earning, we expect you to grow. But funny enough, like you said, so people actually go back to falsify the pay slips, because they probably increased what they want so that you can give them a higher bargain. But that's still going back to what I said about the wage structure, transparency. So if, for instance, I tell you are coming on level 2, level 5, or grade 5, I already know how much that grade is worth. So if I feel you are, your skills, you are the talent I would not want to lose, so I can seek recommendation, approval to increase your level, probably take you from this level to the other level, so that I can employ you. Not because of that pay slip that you've given to me, but because I feel that this is a talent that I would not want to miss. For me, I really don't even look at your pay slip, because I know for my system I can print pay slip. So,
so nice. Ladies and gentlemen, the question is unbelievably relevant. So I would like to ask you to think in another way. Instead of thinking about this problem as a person that you're recruiting, think about when you go to buy a car. Before you go to buy the car, you work out how much you can afford and which car you want. Now, you may want the Mercedes-Benz, but you don't have the money for the Mercedes-Benz and no one is going to lend it to you. So your budget says that you have to go and buy a Nissan or a Toyota or whatever it is. It doesn't matter the brand. Okay, and then you go and you have a range for saying a car with 4 doors and 4 wheels and an engine made in this, it's about this cost. And then you go and you try to find your best deal. Okay, and maybe one dealer will send you a little bit less. Candidates are exactly the same. To Gloria's point, if you are transparent about your salary range, this seat here, doing this job in my company with the money that we have, we can pay 200,000. Okay. Go and find my challenge is you go and find the best candidate. If you're transparent in the adverts and in the conversation with the agencies or whatever, and you say the maximum banding for this salary is 200,000, someone who is earning 1 million is highly unlikely to come to you to give you that problem. However, when they come and they say, what do you care what his last salary was? If you've done your job properly and this candidate is the best candidate for your organization, and you've already got the sign-off for 200,000, what does it matter if he was earning 50,000 the month before? You need him or her, and they are the best. So I would challenge anybody in HR, so just don't waste your time looking at past salary slips. They can be wrong, they can be right, they can be forged, it makes no difference. The person was unemployed for 1 year, so what does he give you? You are disadvantaging talent. And if somebody at the negotiation stage suddenly says, I know you're paying 200,000, but I'm worth 400, that's where you have to have the transparency and the courage to say, my friend, we have been open all the way through the process. I can pay 200,000. I'm very happy to pay 200,000. You are the best candidate. But if you want 500,000, please help yourself. The door is over there. Find a company that can pay you, because this is the company I can't pay you that money.
Thank you. So unfortunately, because of time, we'll take one last question.
question, but it's a scenario that I see all the time. So I get worried when an HR person is somebody else's best buddy in the organization, and this person, you know, is a lot of people get into a lot of friction with this person, and I see that as the person using the HR person as an immunity. So I'm not sure if it's an issue or I don't know if it's right, but I really don't feel the relationship. So I'm not sure if the HR person is being transparent in behavior or ethical or in our practices. So it gets me worried. So I'm not sure if it's the right way to practice. Being a staff best buddy, and I'm not sure if that tells to HR practice.
Sorry, let me understand your question. Your question, you're asking if it's appropriate for HR to have bodies and friends in the organization.
And the person is a toxic person, so I'm seeing the person.
Okay, toxic, you mean? Okay, all right.
Do you
the staff.
So do you think
So
the staff is taking advantage of the fact that their friends in HR?
Yes, and I'm so surprised that for the HR person, you should do psychology. You should know it. So why are you allowing it? So it gets me worried. I see it a lot happen in my past place of employment, and I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay, anyway, initially when we were talking about culture, we talked about leaders, how leaders, implement this culture. And we found out that in some places, some people are termed as sacred cows, sacred cows like the untouchables. They are really those kind of people that make the others feel that there's no culture here. What are we doing? Whenever you go through, these are our values, these are our core competence, this is what we say, they'll be looking at you and like, when you are done, please just get off the stage. So I would advise HR business leaders, there should be no sacred cows. You want to implement performance or consequence management in anything, let it go through to everybody. It shouldn't be that. Or for certain people, you just try to keep mute or pretend like you are not seeing it or like you are not hearing it. I think everybody should face the management, the consequence management. Then for HR people, for friends, I feel HR people were human beings. So I, for instance, I won't say I make friends in the workplace. I call them acquaintances. For workplace, I have a separate life with my work life and my social life. I do not mix it together, but that doesn't mean everybody is like that. Because we're all human beings. So people, when they work, they become so close. But I've noticed that it's when I leave my past employment organization, that's when I become more close to my colleague. But while I'm there, you won't even be on my Facebook, Instagram, nothing. That's how I have learned to function, because I see HR as that gray area where we're exposed to a lot of criticism and backbiting and the rest. So there's no point, dealing with employees' emotion and dealing with my own emotion. I always try to balance it, and the best way for me to balance it is just to put on my straight face and treat you as my customer, my employee, not my friend.
Yes, I want to speak to your situation. I think if there's a way that management this issue can be brought to their attention, it would be nice. It can cause a very toxic environment, because with time, people will know. So the question that people will try to do is to test your resolve or test how impartial you are. Yes, HR's job is to be, warm, polite, nice. But once the relationship starts getting deep, your judgment will be questioned. And it's sad if the staff start to question your judgment as HR. It might even jeopardize your job, but one day or the other, the same people who you are trying so hard, including the person who they are protecting, will actually turn on you. So it's a very dangerous route for a person to follow. I really like your style. I think it's a very good style. It doesn't debar, but you need to keep the relationship professional. It's a working environment, and you don't want innuendos. imagine if the relationship we're talking about is between HR and the senior person. That means there's no decision that the senior person makes or any suggestion that is offered that will not be filtered through that lens. So nobody will take all the parties seriously. So if someone is senior that can intervene and help call HR, because you can imagine if you're working there and I go to tell HR, look, you see, madam, it seems as if this is your friendship. You know, you are paying salary. Maybe your own job will at stake. So you need someone who is more senior that can at least lay down the rules and ensure that things are done properly. Thanks.
Very quickly, to build on it, both speakers are 100% accurate. But I appreciate sometimes that you're in an organization where there is no chance to escalate it. Because of whatever it is, it's blocked and the HR person is too powerful. So, I turn it and I say to you, we were talking about retention, okay? That company is in our power, but where you see that it is completely blocked, fix your CV. So I had an HR director, my very first HR director, he said, in every profession, in every country in the world, you need only 2 things in your life. A very, very good sense of humor, so that when the going is really tough, you can laugh. And when you stop laughing, up-to-date CV.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're running out of time here. So we're going to give each of our speakers 1 minute each to summarize and wrap up. So we're going to start with you, Suleiman.
Me, okay, me. Okay, yesterday I was talking to HR professionals saying that, look, guys, it's a whole new ball game. HR needs to step up its game, needs to get more involved in the business. But more importantly, we are in a leadership position. And as leaders, we are people of influence. So at every time, no matter what it is that is said about HR, people look up to us to resolve knotty situations that are people related. They want us to, at all times, rise above board, to do the right thing. Because when we don't, we actually engender this culture which we are working very hard to build. All the signals come from us. Even when our seniors or the execs are showing the wrong path, we have a very difficult responsibility of calling them out, holding them accountable, so that way they don't destroy the very good thing that they work for. So, summary, lead by example. Keep becoming more influential as you already are. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is such a huge topic, but what instead of giving you a piece of advice, what I would like to ask you is to think about something. So, as a foreigner coming to Lagos, it's a fabulous city. There's only one problem with Lagos. I have never seen traffic like this in my life. Anything else we can cope with. So what I would like to leave you to think is this. We have to create open, transparent culture. We have to foster our talent. We have to do everything that every HR textbook tells us. It's all important, it's all necessary. But what I would ask you as professionals to do is remember one thing. With the traffic and the hours that you sit getting to work and getting home from work, and the hours of hard work that you put into your work, you are at work more than you see your family. Yes, sure. Okay. It's up to you, it's up to us to create an environment where we feel like family. Because those very people that you see, you will see them in the face more than you see some of your family. Sure. Okay. Until we win the lottery, or someone leaves us 100 million in the bank, we have to work. It's life. We have to work to provide for ourselves and to provide for our children's future. So if we're going to work, it is our responsibility to make it the best place that we can be. Otherwise, it's like jail. Why would anyone in this room, who would drive 3 hours in the morning to go to jail? To sit there and be punished for 9 hours and then drive 3 hours home? We wouldn't even conceptualize it. So if we have even the slightest little bit of power to make the places where we work better, it's all of our responsibility to do that for ourselves and for others.
Very great point.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Just to add to what he's saying, to make it a better place, when we're talking about our culture, let's try to be able to drive down our culture. What are our core values? How do we understand it as HR people, and how do we hope to impact it to the other people? Sometimes some companies will do focus sessions, acculturation sessions, while some companies do not even bother at all. All you do is you just go to the internet and you see copy and paste values that even the employees do not know what their values are. I think that's so poor. So at HR people, before we think of preparing training the analysis, let's think about that culture, that value, that core competence, put it in everything we do. In recruitment, let's put up cultural fit. In trainings, let's try to build these values that we're talking about into training models for our employees. So unconsciously, that's how the mind works. They just start representing the values, the cultures, and that we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much.